Welcome to the Be Military Fit podcast, a special series designed to help develop physical fitness and mental resilience in everyone. Brought to you by Be Military Fit, the world's best outdoor workout. In this podcast, we welcome David Haye, former two-weight world champion with 32 professional fights, 28 wins and 26 knockouts. David joins us on the pod to talk about his professional career, as well as how he's transitioned to retirement, leading a healthy, strong, fit lifestyle. This pod was recorded during one of our Monday night live shows for BMF, where we welcome a live audience to ask questions to the guests. So sit back and listen in as David delivers some great stories and some strong messages which we can all benefit from.
David, are you there?
I'm here, mate. I'm here. All's well.
Good to have you on board. And first of all, a huge thanks for joining us on Monday Night Live. It means a huge amount to all at BMF that you've got involved with us for this week to help inspire our members and motivate our members. First of all, could you just give us a short background about the boxing week, what our members have got in store, and why you kind of came up with it, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, since the lockdown, everybody's obviously realised how important physical health is. You know, making sure that your immune system's strong, making sure as fit as can be, and it's been something that I've really enjoyed seeing the nation doing. You know, from Joe Wicks doing his morning workouts, the PE for the kids. You know, getting people up and running, people moving, you know, touching their toes, jumping around. Young kids is giving them a good introduction into health and fitness, as I believe is one of the pillars of any healthy human being, is making sure from an early age. It's really important from an early age you instill the ethos of physical health and exercise, as that is as important as eating well, getting to bed early. There's so many different things that your parents tell you, but in my household growing up, exercise, I used to see my dad doing press-ups, doing sit-ups every day, every morning before we went to bed. We do press-ups in the morning. Have you done your press-ups yet? And I've instilled that into my family, and I can see the results. I can see that he's always fit, he's always healthy, he's always ready to, he's always energized. Rarely is he sick. And I definitely feel teaming up with BMF, getting out there in the parks, getting the fresh air, running around, doing, boot camps, training, doing, army style training is so important for everybody. So even if it's half an hour a day, even if it's just a tiny moment of your day is focused on yourself. You spend so much time focusing outward on everything else. You've got your business here, your family here, relationship here. You've got all different things. Your phone's constantly buzzing. Your brain's in so many different places. We need to sometimes quiet the noise and look inwards and focus on getting the best out in ourselves. Because without that, you can't do anything else. You're going to crack. You're going to get sick. You're going to break down emotionally, particularly physically. They're interlinked. They really are linked. And it's all about finding a time during the day for a short period of time just to do some exercise, to get your heart pumping and to get the blood flowing, and that will just set the rest of the day perfectly. So teaming up with BMF is, for me, it's a family. It's everybody I've met in the BMF family, they're all connected in one way or another, whether you're in up north somewhere or in London. It's a beautiful family, and people are all on the same boat, knowing that health is first.
That's right. It's a great start to the evening's event. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. And especially now, it's so important that we exercise. The government is saying we need to get out and be active for at least an hour a day. And I was just chatting to you before this about how the government advice used to be 30 minutes 3 times a week, but now we're being told to do something for an hour a day. It's like everybody is actually doing it. I think almost this has turned into an opportunity for people to do something about it. So my question to you is, how have you turned this into an opportunity, not only for yourself, but also for Cassius, your son, and keeping him active?
Yeah, Cassius is very fortunate that before this lockdown, exercise was, paramount in his life. He goes to a sports academy where he plays hours of tennis every day. So he's one of the very lucky few. But even though he's not at school anymore, he's not boarding in school, he's at home. He's doing more exercise now than ever before. He's doing these Zoom calls with his friends, and they're doing press up competition. They're doing squat thrust competitions. And it's not just him, it's all the other kids, even kids who don't go to a sports academy, just buddies of his from family, friends. I went up into the room yesterday. He's blasting out a circuit. He's completely out of breath. He's drenching in sweat, and he's doing a workout with his friend just because he can. And this lockdown, if you can't manage to get yourself into good condition or better condition than you were before lockdown, I don't think there's much helping you, because if there's ever a time now to have that spare moment, that time, if you can't spare one half hour of your day to do some exercise now during lockdown, I don't know what to tell you. But this is a good start to get into good habits. So when we go back to some form of normality, it's ingrained in you. You've done it in the morning, whether it's a thing you do before work, at lunchtime, or up after work. Try to pick a time that you can stick to, because if you can have that time before work where okay, you do it, once you've done it for 2 or 3 weeks, it's part of your DNA. You then wake up and just crack on with it. It really is important to pick a time that you work at and just stick to it, and you'll find it becomes part of your life, and you'll then cluck for it. You'll then need that training. You won't feel as good if you don't do the training. And at the moment, if you're not used to doing training, it's a little bit tough to start off with. You get a little achy back, achy legs. But when you get over that phase, it's a beautiful thing, and you'll get them endorphins, the genuine endorphins. You'll get you'll feel the energy, and your productivity in work will go through the roof.
That's right. You're talking about habits there. It's something that we've touched on a few occasions now on Monday Night Live and on the BMF podcast, that you create habits, and this is a massively good opportunity to create a habit, because you've got day after day you can do that same thing, and it will then get ingrained, as you say. I'd like to, before we go into talking about Cassius and how he's motivated at the moment to stay fit and healthy, when did you start? When did you start thinking about boxing as a career? When did you start thinking that actually training and sport was something that you wanted to get into? Was it from a really young age?
Yeah, it was from as early as I can remember. I used to tell anyone that would listen that I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. That was it. I wasn't going to be a rugby player. I was going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. And I told everyone that I met that. And my party piece was my dad's friends would come round, and I'd tell them that I'm the heavyweight champion of the world. And they put their hand out for me to punch it. And my party trick as a kid was being able to generate freakish power in punching in a big right hook, a big haymaker. And I used to use, but I got really, if you can see, I got really sharp knuckles, and I've always had it. And I used to hit them right in this little sweet spot here with my big knuckle. And no matter how big the guy was, he'd go, you could genuinely see they can't believe that this little kid hit their hand as hard as he did. But he didn't realize that's all I used to do and all I wanted to do. Then I remember being a kid watching Rocky IV. I was a very, very young kid watching Rocky IV, and he fought Ivan Drago. And I remember the training montage when he went to the mountains and the snow, and he was pushing his body, he was training. My dad did martial arts as well when I was younger. So I was always watching Jackie Chan movies and Bruce Lee movies. So I was big into combat sports, combat in general. Used to love it. Used to love watching people fighting each other. When the big fights would happen, my parents' family would come around and friends would come around, and it would be a carnival-like vibe watching the big fights. So I used to, as a kid, watch the adults getting so much entertainment from this little box and these men fighting each other. It was like, this is it. This is what I need to do when I get older. And my dad didn't let me do boxing until I was 10. I've been asking from when I was probably 4 or 5. Until I was 10 years old, he didn't let me go to the gym. But when I was 10, I went to Fitzroy Lodge Amateur Boxing Club, and I was there for 10 years. It was tough, it was hard, but it was the discipline that someone who has my personality definitely needs. I'm a bit of a rebel. I've always kind of done what I've wanted. I never listened to the teachers. But in that boxing gym, you have to have respect. If you want to be there and want to be part of that community, the boxing community, you need to toe the line. You no swearing, no spitting. There's no disrespecting your elders. You have to be on point. And that was where I got my discipline. And it was training. It was, if you don't train as hard as you need to in sparring, you're going to stay in the sparring when you're tired. Instead of doing 4 rounds, if you're not doing what we're asking you to, you're going to do another 4 rounds. Maybe in today's society, they wouldn't allow a kid to get beaten up at 10 years old by a 30-year-old. But it worked out for me. I think I needed a bit of tough love growing up, and I definitely got it. And I believe that going to the gym every day after school, definitely, without a doubt, put me on the right path. I've got many friends who come from the same estate in Southeast London as I did. Many of them are dead. Many of them are in prison. Many of them are drug addicts. A lot of them have gone off the path. And I believe between when school finishes and when you go to sleep at night, that period of time is where the damage is either done or is not. And I, fortunately, for a large majority of that, was in the gym, where whatever energy and boisterousness I had was well and truly used up. So by the time I got home, I just wanted to eat and go to sleep, because I've been at school all day long, clucking to hurry up, finish school. All I wanted to do was go to the boxing gym after school. So I went into that gym. When that was done, I was ready for sleep, and the cycle went like that for many, many years. So
did you taste success at an early age, or did it take a bit of time to kind of get that, not only the habit of training hard and pushing yourself and being part of a group or a family? And I know those sort of local boxing gyms like the Fitzroy or the Peacock Gym, all of those places, you go there and you can stay there all day. But did you taste success from an early age, or did it take a while for that to come to you?
It depends what you define as success. When I had my first fight, when I was about, it was a gym fight, so it wasn't a real fight. There was a referee and all your family was there, but because I was younger than 11 years old, it wasn't really a fight. So there wasn't a winner and loser. Although I knocked the kid out in a couple of rounds, there was no winner or loser, but it was just like a way to get the younger kids to get in there. And that's when I got my first real taste for it. And then I had a real fight when I was 11. It was not a real fight. It was another fight, which was on my medical card. And I remember knocking the kid out in 12 seconds, my fastest ever knockout. I remember I was so pent up. This was the real one, and everyone was there. I must have had a couple of 100 people there, and my adrenaline was pumping. I was so nervous because I've been telling everyone I was going to be the heavyweight champion. And here I am, I've got to fight another little 12-year-old. And I remember running over and just pounding this poor little kid.
Yeah.
And the feeling I got after that, and everyone was cheering. That was a confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I am going to be.
Okay. And then for the next few years, it was starting to build up in the amateur scenes, then eventually turning pro in 2002. And going from amateur to pro, is that an easy decision, or is that something that takes a long time?
I wanted to turn professional when I was 19. That was my plan. I think 19 or 20, the 2000 Olympics. I wanted to go to Sydney Olympics. I went to one of the trials where I fought a guy called Jacob Fragameni and lost 11-1 on points. Go on YouTube and check that fight out. I didn't, but that's what the scores said at the end of it. So that was my opportunity.
Yeah.
So I didn't make it to the Olympics. I beat the guy they sent instead of me. I beat him.
Right.
Knocked him out in a couple of rounds but he went. But long story, but I'm over it now. But just about. And there was a time where I felt like I needed to win the Olympics. I thought I have to win the Olympics, and then I realized, it's like, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And I would have needed to have waited till I was, I think, 24 years old before I went to the next one. So in 2002, I went to the Commonwealth Games, and I had one fight. I knocked a guy from Pakistan out, and I tore my bicep. And I remember thinking to myself after that, how about if this was the Olympics? because I thought it was my divine right that any tournament I went into, I won. The tournaments going into that, I'd won them all. Like, I'd beaten all the top Russians, Ukrainians. I beat all the top guys in the world. And I went to the Commonwealth Games, which was in Manchester. So it was my time to shine. And I got injured after one fight. And I remember thinking, I can't wait another 2 years to get this gold medal, because there's no guarantee you're going to get it. You know, I thought it was a guarantee I was going to win the Commonwealth Games. There was no one in the Commonwealth Games, I think, in the top 10 in the world. And I was, think, number 2 at the time. So I was like, if that could happen now, that could happen anytime. So I thought my ultimate goal was to be a heavyweight champion of the world. So let's get cracking. Let's turn professional at cruiserweight, weight below that, and start from there. So I made that decision, and it was a good decision. I'm glad I did that. As I beat the 2000 super heavyweight Olympic champion Audley Harrison as a professional, and got paid millions of pounds for it. So it was so it worked out okay. And I didn't quite win the Olympic gold, but I beat someone who did win the Olympic gold. So
the transition was okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to get onto your professional career a bit later on in the show, but I think it's been exactly 2 years today. Am I right, since you last weighed in?
Yeah, 2 years today since I stepped on the scales before my last professional fight. I remember stepping on the scales. I felt fantastic. I remember getting on the scales and going, I looked down at myself. I was like, yes, he's back. He's back. And he wasn't. He thought I thought I was back. I thought that was it. And Tony Bellew, the bomber, had other ideas. He had other ideas, and it wasn't to be. Yeah. But no, I know deep in my heart that everything I could have done in the lead up to that fight, I did. I know I didn't cut any corners. I didn't have any cheat meals. I didn't, I wasn't doing anything I shouldn't have done that would have potentially hindered my chance in that fight. So I know I could look at myself and know, as I walked to that ring, that's as good as I could have been on that night. And if it's not good enough, it wasn't good enough. And it wasn't good enough by a long stretch. So I could say, okay, I gave it 100%. In the past, you may have had fights where you think, I could have done that, I should have done that. If this wouldn't have happened in training, that. But this one, I really, really focused and used all of the experience throughout my whole boxing career to do the most perfect training camp. Everything, from my nutrition to my recovery to my sleep to the sheets that I slept on to my team, everything, my shorts, my wrap, everything was perfect. Finally, I remember thinking, I've never had a training camp that's gone so smooth. I had all the right people, the strength and conditioning, the weight, I had all the right kit. I had everything sorted. The only thing was I was 37 years old at the time, and I wasn't 27 years old. Is a big difference, and I found that out in a real painful way.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I've not had the painful experience that you had there, but I know that being 37 myself now, it's not quite as easy as it used to be. I sat on a rowing machine for over 3 hours yesterday, and by the end of it, I was a broken man, trying to raise money for a local rugby club. But what you've done in the last 2 years is actually really interesting, because you've transitioned your whole way of training into, if you don't mind me saying, you're in great shape right now. You can clearly see that from the style of training you're doing, the workouts you're doing. But you were obviously in great shape before when you were in your professional career. Would you say right now that there is a difference in your level of fitness, or have you just managed to hone all of that, intensity and training and long hours that you did and put that into a shorter, more succinct method, which is getting good results?
I haven't put I put all my experiences into a shorter period of time. It's unpractical to train the way I used to train. First off, it's too dangerous. As a professional athlete, the way I was able to have the success I had was to push my body physically to a point where I was this close from getting injured and then just pull back. So I pushed it to the limit before the engine blows up, just to open my lungs as much as I can, just to push the weights, just to get that last rep out, where most people would never go into that red zone. They stay out of that zone. But because I was always the smaller guy in the fight, I had to be superior physically. I had to be faster. I had to have better endurance. I had to have better time and speed. Everything needed to be better than the bigger guy, because the bigger guys all it takes is one punch from them, and I'm out of there. So I had to make sure I had the physical tools for 12 rounds. It's no good me being physically fit and agile and fast for 6 rounds, and after that I fall apart, so I'll get squashed. I know, 9 times out of 10, the opponent who was in front of me when I fought a heavyweight was 3 stone, like up to 100 pounds heavier than me. Nikolai Valuev, who I beat for the heavyweight championship, was 100 pounds heavier than me. That's a significant weight advantage in any given sport. So I had to be physically superior, and to do that, I really had to punish myself. But I paid the price on it. I've had both of my biceps. I've had shoulder surgery, Achilles surgery, back surgery. I've had so many different surgeries because I've pushed it in training. I mean, it's because I push it so far. At some stage, your body just can't take it anymore. And the training,
in your mentality to just like smash yourself and train hard and hard and hard.
It's a mindset. They say what makes you great also kills you at the end of the day. So the mindset I had to push beyond the pain barrier is the same reason many boxers end up with bad brain damage, because they get a brain trauma, for instance, in a fight. And if they go, whoa, something's gone in my head here, I think I might have a blood clot in my brain, let me just stop this fight. That's not allowed in boxing. That's just such a fundamental no-no. You're expected to die in the ring. And anything less than that, you're considered a coward. And I've grown up from that since I was 10.
Right.
I've been in a gym where quit, you're going to quit. What do you mean you've got one eye? What do you mean you're blind in one eye? So what? You got another eye, use that. You got broken hands, so what? People have got no time for anything other than willing to die in the ring. And even like armchair fans who have never boxed the day in their life, they'll see a fighter have a ruptured eye socket, for instance. I'll tell you a perfect example. Kell Brook, he had a ruptured eye socket against Gani Golovkin, Triple G. And he fought the biggest punching pound for pound fighter in the world, going up 2 weights in the division, ruptured his eye socket, gave it a good go, got knocked out, got stopped, no disgrace there. He then goes and fights another pound for pound best fighter in the world. And he was told after that eye socket injury that he could have lost his sight. And he was really lucky not to lose his sight, because there's one thing rupturing your eye socket with all the bits of bone floating around. There's another thing getting punched in that same thing by one of the biggest punchers in the world, pound for pound. Now he's in the fight, a couple of fights later, his other eye socket goes. And obviously he's thinking, I nearly lost my sight with the other eye. Now he goes down on one knee and goes, he's like, after being knocked down, after being way on points, he had a couple of rounds to go to hit the time belt. And the amount of abuse he got for going down on one knee.
Yeah.
And just he couldn't take it anymore. Like he didn't quit. He knew he couldn't win. But that was a perfect example of the media and boxing fans not accepting someone not dying in the ring. I remember one of the most captivating fights I've ever seen was Nigel Benn when he fought Gerald McLennan. Gerald McLennan now, is unfortunately heavily disabled. He had a blood clot in his brain. He kept blinking throughout the fight. Obviously, there was something horrendously wrong with him. I was a big Nigel Benn fan, so I'm like, I just want him to win by any means necessary. Anyway, he goes down on one. He kind of goes down on one. He turns his back, and the commentator, I'm not sure what the commentator was. He said he swallowed it. He gave up. He swallowed it. In other words, he's a coward. Anyway, he slips into a coma and he can't speak, he can't talk. He's blind now. Looked after, but he's got no money. It's just horrible.
Yeah,
that's boxing's a beautiful game, but it's got that other side. And
I don't think anybody really realizes that. I certainly didn't. That is news to me, and from an outsider's point of view, you just don't see that in the ring. Actually, you don't really appreciate that. Like I was watching earlier today. One of the great things about having you on board is I've been able to sit on YouTube for an excuse and watch all of your old fights. So I was watching Bodyweight today, and that to me actually looks like you're in full control and you're just almost assessing the situation. But in actual fact, you would give absolutely everything to win that match. But from my point of view, looking at you, you look like you know what, he's got this and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's in control all the time. But in actual fact, is there more to it than that? I mean, were you in control all the time during that fight?
There's so much more to it than meets the eye. what I was able to do in that fight, I could probably never do in any other time in my life, because I was physically in the right position to do that. I'd done the right training. It was like a perfect storm where he was so much bigger and heavier than me. All it took was one bob in the wrong way, one weave in the wrong way. He connects me. And once my legs were gone, I had no way of winning that fight, because the only way I had to be in and out of range, I had to give the judges the illusion that it was like a bull in a matador. I had to really slow my movements down, walk around fainting. I had to really posture and sort of bluff a lot of the movements I was doing to get him to dance to my tune. And it was very, very difficult. I had big, tall sparring partners. I did everything. My coach, Adam, had these platform boots that he used to wear to put his hand up high enough to 7 foot for me to punch. So he had some issues with his shoulder, putting his arm. Normally when you hold the pads, it's here, but when you put it up here, it then starts jarring your shoulders. So I think he's still got shoulder issues now from that one training camp. So it's a team effort. Everyone's struggling along with it, but it's all for the greater good. But it was a very difficult, athletically tough tournament fight to take place. It wasn't grueling as though getting punched in the face, broken jaw. It was a very grueling athletic competition where I had to do everything better than I've ever done before. But on the bottom of my feet, I wore the skin completely off. My feet were covered in blood after that fight because I wore some new socks. No one told me don't wear new socks before a fight. I wore some new socks and it took the skin completely off the bottom of my feet. And from probably the third round, it was just literally all the skin was on the bottom of my feet. So I had that. I broke my hand. I broke my hand in the second round as well. So you'd never notice that watching it.
You couldn't tell.
That was the plan. So there's a lot going on inside that no one knows outside. But that was probably my biggest, most illustrious evening, where people who had no interest in boxing, just because the physical differences between us, they had to tune in. It's like David's fighting a literal giant. Like, we're doing a giant. See us next to each other, like, that guy's a giant. And not only is it, he looks like a giant, he looks like some sort of ogre, like from Lord of the Rings or something. He's a lovely guy though. He does children's poetry and he's
well, there you go. The giant.
So although I painted the picture that he was this big hairy ogre, I've never spoken to him. He doesn't speak English. I don't speak Russian, but people who I know him say he's an absolutely lovely guy.
We're going to have to get into some of the questions from the audience actually, but before we do, I think we now understand that you put yourself through the mill when you were training in your professional career. Yeah. But can you just give us a bit of an insight into what you're doing now to keep in shape and how that has adapted or changed in lockdown? Because that's really what we were about to do with BMF and the Boxing Week.
Okay. Yeah, I try to do a lot of body weight stuff. I try to do stuff when you're at home, when you don't need weights. I have access to a gym like most people do, but I like to, something about doing body weight exercises, on yourself. We're human beings. I love to squat something heavy, but I like to go for a minute non-stop squats and get that burn going where you like, it's that mind over matter where you're going, can I do another 10? And you just keep blasting them out. I like that feeling. And a lot of people don't like the feeling, but if you can somehow go through the pain, you start to appreciate the lactic. You need to learn to somehow enjoy the lactic. And I learned it as a professional athlete that when it starts burning, that's the only time it's working. If you're doing press-ups and you can do 20 press-ups easy, but to get to 25, you've got to really struggle. You've only done 5 press-ups. Until you can start feeling it, you might as well not do it. So that's the bit. I like getting into that bit where it's like, oh, here we go. Can I blast them out? And you think, I've got nothing less. And you think, okay, give me 2 more. You're like, I kind of learned that from an early age. And that's what I do. With Cassius, he does his press up. He can just bang out 40 press ups and he's grinding them out. He's only just turned 12, and you'll see him on Wednesday. But he wants to jump in and get involved on Wednesday with me to do a little workout. So we do some stuff there, just core stuff, planking, those crunches, just basic stuff that it's not rocket science. It's just doing it to good music where you like getting the flow and you to do it with someone else is amazing. Maybe doing it with your partner or your kids. it's just a nice way to bond. It's a nice way to, you know, it's a nice feeling to go through that pain barrier and look at someone else, knowing they're where you are, they're struggling as well, but they're going. So you can't let them go. You got to keep pushing through. I always find it better to work out with someone else, even if it's someone else online. Even if someone, I've done it myself. You know, Wesley, you know, a good friend of mine, Wesley Morgan, he's a great strength and conditioning coach from. I used to spar with him when I was a kid at Fitzroy Lodge. We do training sessions together. We put them on. We grind them out together, and it's always nice to have someone work with you. That's why I like the BMF online digital side of things. I think that's something that's going to maintain even when this lockdown's over. People are really going to feel the benefit of even staying at home and doing it, because you can't always get to the park. You'd like to. It might be raining outside. Okay, but if you've got an indoor one, I can do that session indoors, and you can get great value. You can do so much more when you've got someone to look at, someone to lead you, than sometimes just doing it on your own. I hate training on my own. I really, really dislike it. I always like having someone else there to follow me, or to me to follow them.
I think that brings us on perfectly to our first question from Ryan French, actually, because it's talking about BMF and BMF members. Ryan, welcome to the show. You had a question for David.
Oh, all right, David. It's nice to meet you, mate.
You too, mate.
My son wants to say hello to you, if you don't mind. He's
What's going on, mate?
Just say hello. I just wanted to so I spoke to a lot of BMF members over the years, and they've expressed like experiencing feelings of like nervousness and fear and things like that before taking part in sessions. I just wanted to like just explore with you like how you dealt with your nerves or fear, if you did experience fear before fights.
I used to get very nervous, very, very nervous from the age of probably 10 when I started competing till maybe 15, about 15, 16. I used to get the uncontrollable butterflies in my stomach. All I was doing was thinking about the negative side of it. I'd be thinking, oh, what if he does this? I'd be just fantasizing about me getting beaten up and knocked out, and thinking, oh, then that would make me even more nervous. I was thinking about the worst case scenario, and it got to a stage where I just kept knocking everybody out really easy. So I'm like, why do I feel like this? Why am I feeling so nervous and going through my mind about getting hit with jabs and missing punches and feeling like daydreaming where your feet are in mud? And I was like, why am I doing that? Why not just forget about that? Why not realize that I've got more chance of losing this fight by thinking this way and getting nervous than I have not thinking about it whatsoever, saving those nerves for the fight. I think it was around 16 years old, I realized, just don't think about it. It sounds crazy, don't think about it, because if you can't control your thoughts, which I couldn't at the time, all I could think about was the worst case. If I think about the fight, I think about the fight going bad. So I just said, just don't think about the fight. So I changed my mindset. So I just didn't think about it. Anytime it popped into my head, I'd think about something else. I'd have phone someone up, talk to someone, watch something on TV, or take my brain away from it. Because all you're doing by thinking about it, you can't control what your opponent's going to do. You can control what you're going to do. No matter how much I rehearse in my brain of what I'm going to do, it's not like I'm doing, a shot put or something where there's no other outside influences. I can't control what he's going to do. It's a reactive sport. I need to slip his punch and counter. I don't know what he's going to do, so why think about it? Why not do the thinking in the gym when you're training? And once you finish your last session, I just forget about it. It's difficult to do when that's right there looming, but I've been doing it since I was 16 years old, and I was able to tune out of it. So people go, you don't look like you're bothered. I'm like, I'm not. And like, are you nervous? I'm like, I ain't thought about it. And they couldn't understand when I said I haven't thought about it, because I knew I put the gloves on. Now I'm thinking about it, but it's okay now because I'm walking to the ring. I got to the point where I didn't even think about it till I got into the ring. Now I'm in the ring. I look down and I walk to the ring, dancing to my song, look around, I can enjoy the moment. I'm saying it like a still. I used to be able to enjoy the moment in the ring, and then it's like, okay, time to go to work. And my heart just goes, dum, dum, dum. My heart just turned off. It's like I'm completely in control. You imagine you're in bed and a burglar breaks through your window. Imagine how your adrenaline just goes, and you go into that fight or flight mode, and your heart goes dum 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 dum, and at that point you're ready to go crazy. I was able to turn that on like that. It was completely normal. My heartbeat no more than it is now. I'd walk to the ring, get in the ring, I'd take a deep breath, walk around, and once I know he's in the ring, once I know it's time to fight, I go. And I don't know what I thought. It just went. I'd look down at my heart. I could see it in my fights. I look down at my heart. And it just starts going dum 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 dum, and I look at my arms. I look at my arms, and like I've got this superpower. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go now. And I start walking up and down like a caged animal. Yeah. And that's it. I'm on. The adrenaline's on to the point where you can go through anything. And I think that for me, when I was able to tune that, was the difference between winning and losing fights. And when I got to a point where I got overconfident, I stopped having that feeling. It was only when I knew that I could lose this fight if I do something wrong, is when I turned it on. And when I was getting in the ring with people, I thought, oh, this guy's crap. It wouldn't turn on. I'd try and turn it on. It would, but not really. It was only when I
relate to that. Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that. Yeah, I relate to that a lot.
Thank you very much, Ryan. We're going to have to move on and get through these because we've got loads of the questions coming in from other panelists. Jel, do you want to just turn yourself on, off mute there and ask your questions?
I'm myself on in front of a national world champion, but yes, David, lovely to meet you.
You too.
You touched on it already with regards to Nikolai Valuev. When you trained, would you say that you kind of compromised on the power side of your fighting game? Because you mentioned earlier about you having a big knockout punch and what your party trick, etc., and that you concentrated more on the speed and endurance just so you could get in and out, duck and weave. I remember watching the fight live and thinking, you took him to the cleaners that night. It was an outstanding performance, considering nobody was quite sure what to expect of him on the night and yourself. Do you think you did concentrate more on speed and endurance than power?
Speed, for me, speed was the most important thing, and maintaining my cruiserweight speed, because I went from 90 kilos up to 97 kilos. I wasn't that big. You know, when I fought Derek Chisora and Klitschko, I only weighed 95 kilos. So I wasn't, when you look at their weight, it was 115 kilos. So I was always giving away, 20 kilos or so. So there was no need me worrying about being stronger than them. I was never going to be strong. They could all bench press me or out deadlift me. I wasn't trying to do that. I just wanted to make sure their punches that were pretty heavy didn't hit me. They didn't land. So I had to focus a lot of my energy on my technical speed side of things and the power. So the endurance stuff, the long runs that typical boxers do, the Rocky style, 10 miles in the morning, I never subscribed to that at all. I did a lot of stuff on the VersaClimber. I really found doing rounds on the VersaClimber really effective. Going flat out for 3 minutes with a sitting down in fight conditions. Rest. You start off doing 4 rounds in the beginning of the training camp. Then you would go to 5, 6, and every week you would add another round on until you were doing 12 rounds flat out for 3 minutes and you're monitoring your heart rate. So after every round you sit down and your heart's at 192, 193, and you're blowing, and you now know, okay, like a fight, your job is to concentrate, close your eyes, concentrate on lowering your heart rate as low as you can go, because you've got to go straight back on again and doing it. So I learned how to go to maximum and to fight maximum in a round, to know in a minute rest, I can recover and do the same thing again. I learned that from Evander Holyfield. I looked at a lot of Evander Holyfield's training methods when I was a cruiserweight. I started doing that with a guy, Jamie Sawyer, a good strength and conditioning coach. And we looked at his training program, because he was, for me, one of the most conditioned athletes ever in any sport. Evander Holyfield, one of the all-time greats. He used to do a circuit where it was 3 minutes, 6 exercises, flat out, minute rest, get your heart rate down. So I started doing that. And then I incorporated that onto the Versa Climber, because I had a lot of injuries throughout my career, and I found the Versa Climber, there was no impact. I wasn't smashing my knees, my hips, my ankles, shoulders. It was just, I was able to empty the tank without getting too banged up. Well, not banged up at all in actual fact. So it was maintaining the sort of power endurance, make sure my power was effective in round 12 as it was in round 1. Because all good and well having a big punch in round 1, but over the rounds it goes down. Fighting a big guy, he'll just walk you down. So I needed to maintain that power. So I threw a lot less punches than the average heavyweight, but the ones I did throw were massive. I used to do stuff with shot puts. I used to literally launch a shot put, jog over to a shot put, pick it up, and then literally push it off your leg and blasting it out. And if you see a lot of my knockouts, I slip, and it's the same movement. It's the same movement coming through. And I was able to generate freakish power for someone who weighed 95 kilos. So it was the speed and the power endurance, doing. I used to get only 60 kilos. We get 60 kilos and just do as many squats as I can in a minute. And then once I've put that down, I'll get up into the ring and then do my shadow boxing, and then rest for a minute and go back to that and do rounds of that. And I found that in fights, I wouldn't really get that tired. You know, as long as I was able to slow the pace down with my power, I was able to recover. So the punches I throw were very effective and hard, but the opponent wouldn't want to keep, after he takes the punches, he wouldn't want to keep going. He'd be like, oh, let me recover from this. And as he's recovering, I'm recovering. And no one really picked up on that. And I was able to have a very, very, very healthy years doing it.
Yeah, thanks for that. I've got a few lesson plan ideas now.
Good stuff, smashing.
Well, thanks. Rob Francis, you had a question about lockdown and feeling defeated. Just take yourself off.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. Hi, David. First of all, David, what size feet you got, buddy?
I'm 11 and a half, 12.
Darn, I quite like those red trainers behind you. I was hoping I might be able to borrow them, but you're not my size, so I'll have to pass on that. Yeah, what Tommy was saying there, some of our members, we've been in lockdown a long time now, and it seems to be stretching out in front of us. And at times, we have lots of chats on our social group and everything. And at times, members have expressed feeling a little bit defeated at times. And defeat is a strong word, but you know, when you're feeling, you relate to it being on the back foot, you're struggling. So what can we do, or where do you find that little bit of strength or resolve or that motivation to keep going at times when times are tough, like we're finding it at the moment with this lockdown? What's your little motivator?
I always try to look at the end goal. Sometimes, you figure out where you want to get to, what you want to do, what your final destination is. Because if you don't have a destination, you're just going to go all over the place. You need to know where you're heading to. And at this time, if you're restricted, if you can't move around and do the things you need to do, that's part of it. Yeah. How can you improve yourself in this time with the limited parameters that you have to still edging forward closer to your goal? So you need to have a goal, or have that goal in mind, whether you're writing about that goal, whether you're thinking about talking to someone else about that goal, even though you can't do anything active, even if you can't do something. If you want to be a racing car driver, but you can't go and practice your car, or you can watch other racing car drivers. You can study the history of the car, the wheel, the tire. There's different emotional states you may be able to practice meditation to get yourself further. So no matter what it is that you're trying to get to, even with these restricted parameters, you can make yourself better in some way, shape, or form. So I think having some plan of action helps every single day, and not to think, oh, I'm stuck in the house, I want to do this, I can't do it, it's terrible, I'm gonna start drinking, I'm gonna eat this pizza. No, that's the easy way out. And in life, you get hurdles get put in front of you for all the time. No one has a clear slipstream to the top. Doesn't work that way. Everybody gets knocked down. It's all about how you get back up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward, finding another angle. If this doesn't work, okay, yeah. To know what door to go through in life, you need to go through plenty of wrong doors. I've gone through tons of wrong doors, but you just got to keep going through doors. You don't stop going through doors because one might be wrong. It's lockdown, I'm going to quit on this idea. So for me, it's figuring out what it is you want, where you want to get to, and what can I do today, tomorrow, the next day. Have a diary. If you think you're not going to get back to work for 2 weeks, then okay, write down what you're going to do in every single area. Okay, I'm going to study anatomy and physiology a little bit more. I need to know about the muscles. Someone might ask me, about, what muscle group is used doing this particular exercise. Why don't I just brush up on that? Stuff that you already know, but might not be on the front of your mind. Just try to better yourself in some type of department, because nobody's perfect in every department. So just try to brush up and clean up any little thing, whether it's, learning a language or going on a piano. It's trying to do something, anything. I think, at this point, if you can't find a way to keep yourself mentally tuned in now, with so much not happening, you need to look inward and ask yourself, why is that? Something's stopping you. Something will be stopping you improving, and what you got to look and figure out what that may be to then overcome it. Because I know, I've had a chat with a few buddies of mine, and they're like, I can't believe it. I'm sitting at home. I haven't drunk this much so long. I'm like, okay, have you done the exercise? No, I can't be bothered. I'm like, well, you was exercising before here. It's a form of people. It appears as though it's kind of a form of depression, that people are punishing their body because of what's happening outside here. When the only thing that matters in life is the body. That's all we have. Your house can be taken away, your kids, your family, everything can taken away from you. All we're left with is our body. So why not try and look after that one thing that can affect our standard of living? I
like that. Yeah.
Because if you don't look in trying to improve that, everything else will crumble. And I found the healthier I've been, the better everything else has been around me. Whenever the bad stuff has happened in my life, is when I was at my most unhealthy, when I've been drinking too much or eating bad food, or not really training too hard, or just, skipping things. Everything else seemed to crumble. Whereas the more I've tuned in, physically, watching what I'm eating, when I'm sleeping, all the little things, opportunities seem to, I don't know what it is. It might be fluky, but the more you look, the more you improve yourself, the more the outward opportunities improve. That's just 100% how I've seen it.
So I think what you're saying, goal set, and we talk about it a lot within BMF with our members, set ourselves goals, small ones, big ones, and then just pick those little wins and push those little wins.
Little wins every day. You can have an ultimate target, but to get there, you need to fill these little ones.
Small steps.
Small steps. Okay, if you did X amount on a treadmill this week, by next week, I want to do another 10 minutes of this at this time on this incline. Okay, so in your mind, you're thinking about it. If you don't have a goal, you're just going to jog, and when you get tired, you're going to get off. You're not going to improve. And there's so many different elements of our physicality that we can improve daily. Just doing a couple of press ups before you go to the toilet. Drop down, give yourself 10 press ups every time. You go to the toilet 10 times a day. It's 100 press ups, 700 press ups a week versus somebody who does none. Whatever it is, it's these tiny little things, but make little games for yourself. That's what I do.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
David, we're going to have to move on. Rob, I hope that was helpful. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you very much, David.
David, we're going to have a quick fire round now before we get into the final sort of wrap up. So just from Peter Lindsay, who's one of the live audience, 20 years is a long time of getting punched in the face. But if you had a chance to go back and fight in any era, who would you most like to give the haymaker to, and which ring and why?
If I was able to fight any fighter in history, it'd have to be the greatest. It'd have to be Muhammad Ali. For me, he was the best. Not only inside the ring but outside the ring, what he stood for, his principles, the fact that in his peak, in his prime, he decided to oppose the Vietnam War. It was a very unpopular decision at the time. And he stuck by his beliefs, his religion, his personal beliefs. He stuck by it, and it took his belts away. He wasn't able to box for over 3 years. And now looking back, it seemed like it was a smart thing for him to do. But to do that in his peak, very few athletes would go against the system, the status quo of the time, the way he did. And that for me, there's loads of other stuff he's done throughout his life. So I'd have loved to get in there and mix it up with the greatest, and to see if I could land it. I don't think I could have done. I'd have liked to have seen, on what version of me would it be? I would have liked my cruiserweight version to have a go, because I was a bit faster then. Yeah. The heavyweight version, I don't think I'd have had much chance at all. The small, I might have been able to land a few jabs maybe, but Prime Ali, even when he was way past his best, he was able to beat the great George Foreman. You know, when Joel Tron was undefeatable, you know, when he beat Joe Fraser, Ken Norton, knocked them both out, and they had both beaten Ali at the time. He was way past his prime, way past his best. He found a way to win. He was so mentally strong, so mentally in tune that it was such a beautiful fight. One of my favorite fights of all time. I would have loved to have known how long I would have lasted. Could I have lasted 15 rounds? I don't know, probably not, but I'd have loved to have seen how good I would have done against Muhammad Ali.
Brilliant. Great answer. Thank you very much for that. You're obviously very, very passionate about boxing. You talk very well about it, and you know, lots of great stories. Let's go on to Cassius, your son, who you're training with all the time at the moment. You've obviously inspired him in some way to keep active and fit. But when he first got into sport, talk us through the sort of decisions and why you got him into tennis.
I didn't get him into tennis as such. I was going past. I was in the gym, and they had a little crash in there at the time. The gym I was training in, and there was some kids similar sort of age doing a tennis club for like 4-year-olds. So I was hitting the ball with sponge balls. It looked really cute. And he was like, he said, do you want to do that? He went, yeah, I want to do that. So the next week we brought him in there. Really enjoyed it, really liked it. And we kept going down there. Like, go down there once or twice a week. Then we got him a private lessons. We got him some lessons with a coach. Because I thought, if you're going to do a sport, it's good to get the foundations set right. You know, there's no need doing a sport where you're building terrible technique. So by the time you get a coach, it's too late. You already got a terrible, horrendous technique and nothing to do. So I made sure from basically the start he had a good coach making sure that his form was right, his technique was good, and we just kept that going. He kept that going, and he really thoroughly enjoyed it. He hasn't really shown any. Only recently has he started doing a bit more boxing. He hasn't. I've never really pushed boxing on him at all.
Your success has been a motivation for him to be as successful as he is already in the tennis game.
I don't know. I think so. I think he, he's being called Cassius Haye. A lot of people thought he might end up being a boxer, but he's built for tennis. If you look at his physique, he's got big legs, he's got narrow shoulders, long arms, very lean, very wiry, athletic, super athletic. So for tennis, he's very, very athletic. He wins all the bleep tests and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's got that thing that I used to have when I was a kid, and I go to any running race or any sport, I'd just naturally be better than 99% of people.
I think you've put so many good take-home points here. I mean, throughout the whole session this evening, you've talked about dedication, determination, focus, hitting goals, getting on with it, not thinking about it, getting the job done. All of those things. Question for you, for I suppose what you've experienced with your son and what he's doing and the amount of fitness that he does now, and for yourself previously, champions, are they born or made?
It helps to get some good genetics. It never hurts. Believe me, it's you can be made. I know lots of people who were born champions. They were born with all of the genetic gifts, with all of the attributes to speed, timing, natural endurance, natural hand-eye coordination, but they failed. And I think it was because their will to be a champion wasn't as strong as their will to get high or get drunk or have fun. And that's the difference. You need to want it. Just because you've got the tools doesn't mean anything. There are so many guys so much more physically more gifted than I am. Go to America, walk around the mall in America, look at these big ass dudes. You think, why am I? I remember walking around thinking, how did I become heavyweight champion and all of you guys ain't? It was like, I couldn't comprehend it. It's because in my mind, I set a goal, and although I wasn't that big, I was way smaller than everybody. But it wasn't about the size. It was about how much you want it, what you're willing to go through, how much pain are you willing to have, how much sacrifice, how many headaches, how much only broken bones are you willing to take to get to what you want to get to. And so most people,
that's up here, obviously, isn't it?
Up there. I've got, I don't think it. I think it's something you learn. I think it's something that you learn. It helps having the genetics, obviously, but it's not always there. You can still make it without the genetics. There are many great fighters who weren't that athletically gifted. They just had the engine. They just had that grind through the pain to get there. You know, a lot of athletically gifted people, including myself at an early age, would rely on my natural athleticism too much. And I've lost the guys who were nowhere near as fast or athletically just because they had the hunger. My first loss against Carl Thompson is a perfect example of that. You know, I had the physical tools in terms of speed and youth, timing. I had all that stuff on him. He had the heart. He paid the price. He punished himself, and he went into the fight knowing he was going to get beat up for a while. But he was willing to get beaten up. I wasn't. I was like, I ain't getting beaten up by this old guy. It was all a mindset.
Yeah.
And, it was a tough pill to swallow. It was a tough lesson to learn. But you need to want it more than the other guy. You need to want to win more than anyone else in the world if you want to get to that number one spot. And not many people.
That champion mindset and that mentality that's ingrained in you, and it's still obviously clearly ingrained in you now. You can see it from the way you kind of carry yourself and just the way you talk about things, the intensity that you talk about things. But is that mental resilience? So, I mean, your first fight that you lost, or maybe one of the later ones in the later stages, that level of resilience that you need to bounce back, is that something that you have to work on, or is it something that you?
I think the bounce back ability is something that is I think it's ingrained in you. You've either got it or you haven't. You can't teach someone it. You can't tell someone who's had a bad experience to just dust himself off and carry on. It's okay. Don't worry about that. If it's hurt them, if it's traumatized them emotionally so much that they can't go back to it again, that's it. You get some people who have a bad experience in a car, they can never get into a car again. Or they got scared by a spider when they was a kid, they can't go into a spider. Same thing with snakes. You get these people who have these fears, these phobias of things, and they can't get over it. You know, fortunately, I've anytime I've kind of I lean into the trauma. If I've been hurt by something, I'll want to go back to that exact same thing and turn it up and see if I can get through it again. And I've always wanted to kind of test myself. If there's a scenario or a situation which is pretty scary, it induces that feeling that I was talking about earlier, that little butterflies. It's like, oh, I could be embarrassed here. I kind of go towards that. I did a poker tournament. I learned how to play poker recently for a year. There's a documentary on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it, it's called David versus Goliath, where I go from not knowing how to play poker and I learned to play poker. And I remember walking to the final tournament. It was all about me going to Goliath in Coventry, the biggest poker tournament in the world. It was all about me training to get to there. And I remember walking to that final tournament thinking, there's a lot of people going to be watching this. They're making a documentary about this. Everyone's going to watch it. And I had the same feelings like I used to have. I was like, here we go. It's getting real now. And it was having that feeling that just forced me to have to tune in.
And you put yourself out of your comfort zone in a big way. I heard in one of the trailers for that show that one of the guys that was teaching you said he's never seen anybody like it learn so quickly. You know, you put yourself in something which is challenging and difficult, and you've got through it pretty well.
Yeah, it's being comfortable in your uncomfort zone. A lot of people, particularly in training and fitness, you do something, it's a bit uncomfortable. You got two. You get two different types of people. You get people who feel the pain, the lactic in their throat, their heart's pumping. No, stay away from that. And you get other people who buzz off it. They learn to buzz off it. No one buzzes off it the first time they do it. It's something you've got to do daily. If you do it every day, you touch that little bit, and then you can push that little bit further. But every time you're getting a sense of accomplishment, a sense of achievement, and your heart rate's getting that bit high. You're monitoring your heart rate. You're monitoring your heart rate lowering down after saying, okay, last time when I got my heart rate to 190, it took 3 minutes to get down to 130. Now, I'm getting it down to 130 in a minute and a half. I'm twice as fit as I was. And you start looking at those little marginal gains, and you start forgetting about the pain and start thinking about the results, thinking about the numbers. I think numbers are really important to try to log, so you can see. It's one thing feeling like you had a good session. There's another thing seeing it. And I definitely feel we're working in your uncomfort zone as much as possible makes your comfort zone uncomfortable.
So that brings us on really nicely to this this training week. You've pitched it really. You've either scared a few people off and they're thinking, I'm ducking out, or they're all getting revved up and ready for this.
What I want to do, I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm going to do a round format. I'm going to do 2-minute rounds and a minute rest. So we're going to do 2 minutes of action, 2 minutes of exercise. Probably 4 different exercises in that 2-minute period with a minute rest. Like a boxing match. And in that minute rest, you can keep marching, you can jog on the spot, you can do what you want, but then we're going to go back for a minute. I'll let you know what exercises we're going to do in the 2-minute round. We're all body weight stuff, all stuff that we can all do, and all different exercises which anyone can do at any level. As long as everyone goes to their level, you can't lose. As long as you get to the end, as long as you get through it, that's the main thing. And it's just a different format that people may not have used before in the past. Something that I like to do. I normally do like 30 seconds rest, but we're going to do a minute rest. I'm going to do it with Cassius. Cassius, my son, who's 12, he's going to do it with me. He does it with me all the time, and he's pretty fit, so it should be fun. It should be something different. Throw some shadow boxing in there as well. It's a little boxing flavour.
Good. So that's on at 6 p.m. on Wednesday night, YouTube Live, the Be Military Fit YouTube page, and then we'll be streaming again on Friday morning at 9:45. So you've got Cassius taking part in both of them. So it's obviously a family-friendly workout. Anybody can take part. Yeah,
anyone can get involved. Everyone does it to their level. I'm not saying everyone has to do this. I want to give everyone a heart attack. It's not. I'm going to try to. It's more of an intermediate type of session. If you do what we're doing, you should be able to. If you're used to doing exercise, if you're used to going to the park 2 or 3 times a week doing your boot camp training, then this will be perfectly fine for you. And if it's easy, you can blast through it.
And you've got some music to put in the background. Is there anything similar to your walk-on music? Because we need to know.
I love 70s funk. I love like 80s, 70s, 80s, rare grooves, soul, Earth, Wind and Fire, Kool and the Gang. I love that. That's my era of music. And my walk-on music is Ain't No Stopping Us Now by McFadden and Whitehead. Proper disco classic that I've loved. And I remember what the barbecues, when we have family functions, they always put that on, and that's the one that got everybody up on their feet. So I chuck that in there as well for you guys. So
awesome.
If you're a boxing fan, you'd recognise the song. You'd recognise that's the song you see me walking out to all my title fights to.
Very good. That wraps it up really nicely for us. But if there's anything that you could kind of advise our BMF members now in lockdown, David, 3 simple steps to get through lockdown stronger. Any advice?
Try to do something different every day. Try to pick an exercise of some description, whether it's body weight squats, sumo squats, straight squats, split squats. Try and pick an exercise that day. So that's your day's exercise. And outside of this, maybe it's press ups, clap press ups, and just try to do 10 or 15 or 20 of these exercises throughout the day, and try and tally it up to between 100 and 200 a day. And just try and do that every day. Just whatever it may be, wake up in the morning, think about a different exercise. That's my exercise day, and jot it down every time you do it. So at the end of the day, you've done 100 split squats. There you go. That, for me, just doing something, it doesn't take that much energy. You're not going to get all hot and sweaty, but you're constantly active. If you do a different exercise like that every day, at the end of the week, tally up what you've done, and that's a good solid hour and a half, 2 hours of workout right there, on top of whatever else you're specifically doing training. So just little bits. Just remember, you've got this body, and the body can do so much more than sit around and look on Instagram. There's lots of other stuff that you can do physically. If you're not out walking up and down stairs at work, you're not walking to the shops back and forth, try and do something every day and tally them up and see who can get the most. Challenge your friends, phone your friends up and say, right then, today we're doing press ups. Let's see who can do how many press ups by the end of the day. Okay, now we're doing, I don't know, whatever it be, sit-ups or crunches or whatever the exercise is. See who can do the most out of your little group of friends. It makes the day a little bit more healthier, makes it a little more interesting.
So you've got this body, you get out and use it. I love that.
Exactly.
That's the one. David, there's been hundreds and hundreds of people commenting on Facebook on the live feed there. We're never going to have time, I'm afraid, to all the followers who are out there to go through all the questions. We'll try our best to look at them afterwards and comment where we can and answer for you. Massive thanks to everybody who's followed us on Facebook this evening. This is Monday Night Live. We do it every Monday at the moment during lockdown. This has been a really special one, obviously, having David Haye here with us to take us through this 60 minutes. I hope it's been extremely interesting. It certainly has for myself and everybody in the live audience that's been part of this session. Thanks for joining us as well. David, massively appreciate you putting this week on for BMF. It's going to be a great week. I'm looking forward to it. My kids are revved up for it, and we're going to train hard with you all week. So huge thanks, and see you soon.
See you soon, guys. Bye.